And when man begins to bow to man, most wicked type of fascism or communism is created. Why I call fascism and communism, that is another subject, but I have a reason why I bracket these things. But for the time being, let it suffice that wherever you see great despots, most shocking, most terrible despots who have been so cruel to mankind, in the background of those despots you will always see idol worship. Wherever there is a true one God, single God being worshipped by a people, no despots are created. They are the creation of idol worshipping. That being so, when idol worshipping is condemned, calling partners beside Allah is condemned, it is for the sake of human beings themselves, not for the sake of Allah. Now, these and there are many other reasons which I can count one after the other, make us believe positively that there is nothing selfish about Allah in forbidding us to worship Him and none other. When He does so and when He emphasizes so, when the prophets emphasize this subject so much, it is entirely for our own sake and not for the sake of Allah's aggrandizement. Now that was the negative part. As far as the positive part is concerned, of that I have already spoken earlier in my Dars on Surah Fatiha last year and the year before. When you worship Allah, you worship Him because of your conviction that He is good, and because you know that He is good from the attributes which He Himself has revealed to you. And when you worship Him, there is a positive method, way, and the modus operandi how you can reach Him and you can contact Him as a living being, as a living person, and as one who responds to you directly, not only through other prophets. So the whole relationship between of God and His creation, that is man, becomes a real issue which can be extended to all human beings, and all human beings can directly experience this, and it can be demonstrated in their lives that there is a living God with whom one can come into contact, and that means of communication is worship or prayer. So naturally, because it's all important for us, the prophets laid special stress upon this. Their first fight was with those who were idol worshippers. And this is how the story of difficulties begin. Now when you raise the voice that you should worship Allah and Allah alone and none other, immediately you can pick up a fight. You create a fight. And if you are honest in this slogan, you are bound to suffer at the hands of those who do not want this to happen. And there will be many who will raise this issue. Now, when, in the light of what I have told you, the fight is twofold to begin with. Number one, against those communities who worship imaginary gods in so many words. They say yes, they worship others, and they believe that there are gods other than God as living beings. But those people are now gradually being relegated to the past. In the modern ages, such people are gradually becoming extinct. For instance, you see these idol worshippers in the form of Hindus. But majority among them, which is educated, which has become enlightened, no longer believes in this hocus pocus. So if somebody raises the question of God and worshipping God, they do not care, they are not concerned, because they do not create a challenge to their society, because their society in fact is now based on atheism, not on any real worship. Where there is a real worship of imaginary gods, their raising of the slogans of unity of God does create problems, and the challenge is taken up by the idolatrous society and problems are created for you. But in most cases, today in the modern age, these types of idol worshippers are no longer an important factor. But other types of idol worshippers have gradually and imperceptibly replaced them. And they take up the cudgel on the side of these idol worshippers. And these are the most dangerous ones because they don't call themselves idol worshippers. They sometimes pose as non-believers. They don't believe in any God at all. Yet they don't like Allah to be worshipped. Why? Because they are the people who worship themselves. They are jealous of Allah. It is not that Allah is jealous of them. They are extremely jealous of Allah. They don't want Allah to interfere into the human affairs. That is the reason why they take up the cudgel against God and against those who worship God and God alone. So this is why God has been virtually banned from the Iron Curtain countries, the countries behind the so-called Iron Curtain. The communist philosophy cannot reconcile with the idea of God, despite the fact that they don't believe in God. So what is it to them if somebody does and follows that path? The reason why is that they themselves have adopted and acquired the role of God. They want to shape the destiny of mankind without interference from other sources. So wherever they see the danger of any other being acquiring the role of God and playing in any way with the destiny of mankind and interfering, as they consider it, with the human affairs and direct them to other paths than they have carved for human beings themselves, they become extremely jealous of these forces, whatever they are. So there is a fight automatically picked up between God and the godly people on the one side and those who apparently do not believe in God but in reality are idol worshippers. They worship themselves. They have replaced God with an ideology. They have replaced prophets with marks and angels and Mao Zedong and so on and so forth. So man cannot live without God. That again is the conclusion. Don't consider them godless people. If they were godless, there would not be any jealousy. Our God is a rival God to their God, which is their own ananya, that is their own egotism. And the fact that they consider themselves to be the proprietor, the rightful owner of this universe, they have come into it on their own as if. They do not owe anything to anybody. And because they are the masters of what they control, they are gods. This is exactly the definition of God which has been followed, which has been understood by man from times immemorial. Anything which owns this universe in itself, which does not owe anything to anybody else, which is not answerable to any being outside himself, which is responsible for his own actions to himself and to none other, which has the right to shape the destiny of mankind as he pleases. This is Godhood. This is the type of gods which were created in the times of early monarchs. So this is why I bracketed them with communism.